Hello, my friends, and welcome to Joseys Art School, episode number, I think it's 202. Yes, that is right. Over the last couple of years, I have made over 202 episodes of art lessons for you to create and enjoy in the leisure of your home with groups. And I really hope that you've enjoyed them because I definitely enjoy creating them. It reminds me to take a little time out every day to create, and not just because I'm in the classroom teaching, which I do teach in the classroom, but also just to have a little something to myself that just allows me to express myself, and something about just not necessarily drawing. I'm going to be honest with you. Drawing's not necessarily my strong suit. What I really just love to do is just to play and paint and play with color. And drawing has just been one of those things that's been like tons and tons of practice. So what you'll notice, especially in other videos that I've done, is I try to take a more simplistic approach to the drawing. So we're not into the perfection part of our brain, but we're more into just the process of creating. So around here, it is now springtime, very shortly, the first day of spring. And of course, as you may not have already noticed, of course you have. I love birds. And so what I like to do is I would like to create just some different shapes and turn them into birds. Do you remember a couple of years ago they would say anything will sell if you put a bird on it? It kind of is still true. But with that in mind, what I'd like to do is just play around with a line and turn it into birds. And so I hope that you come along for the journey. All right, so I'm going to be using just a permanent marker just so you can see it on the screen. I am using an 11. No, I think I figured out that this is bigger than 11 by 14. I want to say maybe it's a 12 by 18 piece of paper. So you don't have to necessarily use that large of a piece of paper. You can use anything you have on hand. Bonus, if you have some sort of sketchbook or notebook that you can start to put these doodles into, that would be amazing. So, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So what I like to do before I start is I like to just put little dots, okay, on my page. Those are gonna represent the eye of the bird. All right. Now, if you struggle with any sort of anxiety about, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to turn it into a bird, just put one dot. And then from there, you can just go and create. Because I'll tell you, even for myself, because I wouldn't necessarily call myself somebody who really is good at drawing, but I love practicing it. And I love kind of being at the edge of my seat with it, because it helps to remind me that there are many times, not so much with kids, but as they get older, they get this where they feel like it has to be perfect the first time that you put something on paper. And of course, we know the invention of the eraser really does eradicate that feeling. Okay, so then what I would do from here is then I'm going to add just some sort of shape. And again, I know I might be biting myself in the butt with this one, but I'm going to just put different types of shapes around all of those dots. And my attempt is to turn those into birds. We'll see if it works. All right, so the other key thing that I want to keep in mind is that literally anywhere you put the beak changes the format of how you're going to draw the bird, right? So I'm just picking randomly where to put the beaks. And look at that. Right away, I'm starting to see those shapes come alive, right? So this one right here to me almost looks like a pigeon or a dove. And then this one right here, if I turn my head on the side, looks kind of like a baby chick. And then this one over here, it could be pretty much anything. But do you see how just those two little tweaks, the eye and the beak, can turn a shape into something? And I think that's so wild, right? So you don't have to get so perfectionist about it. Now, so the next thing many people would probably say is you want to put some sort of wing on it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be inspired by the birds here on my wall, and I'm going to create the tail feathers first. So I'm going to add the tail feathers on this one. going to draw the wing in that way. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing here for this one. So I'm going to bring the tail feathers back this way. And then I'm going to come in again, bring the wing around, and then stop it right there. Now, I could do something where I could draw the wing that way and maybe draw another wing going this way. And then that might bring maybe an idea of possibly allowing this bird to kind of fly a little bit. I don't know yet. Right now, I'm not sure where I'm going to go with that one. Now for this one, I'm actually going to draw the feathers or the wing going this way. And then I'm going to draw the tail feathers going this way. Okay, so let's see. What do we think about this? Now, what I'm going to do, you of course have an eraser, I'm sure handy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white paint and I'm going to start to subtract some lines on my paper. So as I'm looking at this, and so I have the beauty of having it up on a wall so I can see what it looks like here if it were on a wall. Many times if you keep a paper just sitting on your desk, it really doesn't give you the right perception for how to look at it. So I would say take your paper, pick it up and put it in front of you and see what you think about it as it's in front of your face as opposed to looking at it straight down. So when I look at this, I'm going back and forth. Obviously you can always put the line back in, but I think I'm going to take that line out right there and see what I think about that once I've left that without the line. And then the same thing here. I think where it starts to lose it for me is right here with this line. And then perhaps with this line as well. Maybe I went a bit overboard with this line. Now, mind you, again, we're learning together and I can always put this line back, right? But I'd like to see what it looks like without the line and then go from there. Same thing with this one. This one almost gives me kind of a hummingbird feel. I like the shape of that wing right there. And so I might add another wing somewhere maybe on the other side. Here's another thing I want you to be mindful of. You can always move your paper around and see if you like it in a different direction, right? So now that I'm looking at this bird right here, I actually really like where that line is, and I'm actually considering moving the tail feathers. So maybe moving the tail feathers right here, and then maybe closing it off here, and then taking more of that line out. Okay, so you do the same thing. Move your paper around and see what you think once you've kind of disoriented how you created your lines initially. Okay, so I'm loving that. I'm still kind of going back and forth with this. But this up here, I really like how it looks almost like it's diving down. So I'm thinking maybe I'm going to maybe look at this bird right here and be inspired by this a little bit by maybe adding a little more here, more tail feathers, and then perhaps bringing a wing right back behind it. I'm not sure yet. I will leave that like that for a while and see what I think. Okay, so for this one, like here, right here, because I was thinking about like it's inspiring me to think of the hummingbird. So I'm going to add a wing there. And then I think I'm going to perch this one up on a branch. And then maybe add some leaves. And put that underneath there. Okay. So these are the basic shapes of my birds, right? So you can leave them as is. You could even add some legs. So even on my my background, you see that there are some legs. So you just do a very basic shape of a leg and some and the feet. I'm going to have this as if it was landing on the branch. And then this one, I'm going to leave it as if it's flying in the air. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this again. First looking at it upside down. And then moving it back to where it was originally. Okay? So again, that little bit of movement changes how it feels even in my brain when I'm looking at these three birds. Now, here's a couple options for you when it comes to filling it in with color. You could get really very creative and use oil pastels or watercolors or acrylic paint. I think I'm going to actually add some oil pastels. So let me show you. I'm working with a couple of different brands of oil pastels. Those who've been with me before know that these are kind of my favorites. Here's the first one. It's called Ronnie. And this is the one I got actually as a result of taking a class. And I really love the vibrancy of these oil pastels. And so even if you don't have oil pastels handy, you could use a crayon, you know. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mimic some of the colors that I see in my background here. So I'm going to add a little bit of blue. And then perhaps add my newest favorite, magenta. Around the belly, and then maybe some, so this one is called ochre, yellow ochre. So that's always a nice one to play with, especially because this one's giving me kind of like a hummingbird vibe. Okay. So from there, you can now start to use whatever you have on hand. So either your watercolor paints, your oil pastels, your crayons. And the key always for me is to just enjoy the process of this because, you know, I work with kids a good majority of my day, and I really do encourage them to be creative. And I actually don't even really do an example for them to see. I really do rely on what's called directed line drawing, where I'm telling them what to do, but what it becomes really is based on how they are interpreting what it is that I'm telling them to do. And what I find to be good about that is they rely less on copying what it is that I'm doing and rely more on what's in their imagination. Now, what's interesting about that is many times it can be easier to do that with younger kids, but as they get older, some kids get so overwhelmed with anxiety that I do eventually have to start doing some sort of example, because otherwise it's almost like they are afraid to start. And so even if at the bare minimum they can just mimic and do exactly what I am doing, you know, including even as detailed as like picking the exact same colors that I'm doing, what I've noticed is that that is just as creative and like really gives them the satisfaction as if they were to create something from scratch. So never let anybody try to dissuade you from the idea of watching videos and creating exactly what you see. You're still, I'm a firm believer, using the parts of the brain that really allows for you to be creative, and B, really gives you the same benefits that many people say that they get when they run or when they are doing yoga, I feel like you're getting very similar benefits. Now, obviously, the aspect of like getting toned and things like that, that's not necessarily happening. But the other side, as far as bathing your brain with some really good endorphins, I really do think that you are experiencing that. Whether you're copying something that you're seeing on a video or whether you're creating something on your own. Okay, so here I am filling it in with color. I'm going to leave some space white because I find that when you leave a little bit of white space, it actually really begins to highlight the color choices that you've used. So I'm doing that here. And then I think I'm going to add some color to the background. Okay. So I think I'm going to use my crayon on the beaks. Go. And then, because this is my favorite right now, I really do love using acrylic paint. So I'm going to do a bit of a blend, but then I'm also going to do it as a wash to kind of accent and complement the watercolor paints that I'm using. Okay, so I'm doing a color mix of Apple Barrel Snow White and Apple Barrel Laguna, available at your craft store or even your local Walmart if you have those in your area. Yeah, literally, I'm obsessed with this color right now. And it does give you kind of like a spring vibe, doesn't it? So again, I'm not being too picky with where the color is going. Oh, I just added a touch of vanilla. Also, this is a Craft Smart brand, so you'll see that as I start to add it in. This actually reminds me of a drawing I did. Oh my goodness, it must have been close to 12 years ago when I was starting to get into mixed media and into the idea of art journaling. And I would just find little quotes and things. And I was really into this song called by the Be Good Tanyas, by The Littlest Birds Sing the Prettiest Songs. And so I am actually having like kind of this deja vu moment that these birds really remind me of that drawing I did so many years ago. So I love kind of those full circle moments when it comes to creativity, because I remember even back then when I really wasn't actually very serious into creating, hadn't thought of my career going in the direction of being an art teacher. At that time, I'm still a military wife, but he's retired now. But I was kind of following what he was doing, and we had a little one. And so I decided to stop my career in business management to be home with her while he was deploying. And so I was, just feeling kind of lonely and lost, and art journaling is what I turned to. And again, I had all those preconceived notions that you can't be creative and only certain people are creative. And so here I was doing art journaling with a class that I was taking with all these clearly more creative people than I was, and kind of like feeling like an imposter being in there because I knew that I really couldn't draw very well. So, but here we are after all this time. And one of the things that really forced me to get away from that is that I was asking kids to try new things and try drawing. And it's like, if you're going to ask them to do it, you've got to do it as well. So, all right, I'm going to put my finishing touches here. I really do like adding in that vanilla. I really think it adds something to the painting. But here we are. So again, you can take your time. You don't have to rush through what you're doing. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll put this away for a while, and then I'll, whoops, and then I'll come back and add a little more detail to it at a later time, because it really is true to give your brain kind of this rest and just let it sit and let the paints dry and then come back. You'll get a different perspective on what it is that you've created. So anyway, with that said, thank you so much for coming by. Please make sure to like and share and subscribe to my channel. I do also have a Patreon account, so if you want to be one of my patrons, I would love that. I also sell art kits and sewing kits and art journal kits, so all of that is down in the description. So if you're on your TV, you won't be able to find it. But if you're on your phone or on a laptop, just feel free to go down in the descriptions and check all of that out. All right, well, thank you for stopping by, my friends. I have videos here on this channel 2 to 3 times a week, so I hope to see you here again soon. Bye-bye.